Your story changed you. Now let it change the lives of others. This is a Candy Factory Mini. So you want to write a book? With Suzette Mullen.
Join me as we follow the development of a nonfiction book from idea to completion. We'll explore the creative process as well as the nuts and bolts of pitching and publication. Get a behind-the-scenes look of my book coaching process, as well as clear takeaways and nuggets of wisdom. Let me walk alongside you as you learn to tell your story. Hi, I'm Suzette Mullen, book coach, nonfiction writer, and your host. Welcome to this episode of So You Want to Write a Book. My goal is to break down the complex process of becoming an author so that you can finally write that book that's been rattling around your head or tugging at your heart. And even if you never plan to write a book, I hope the stories and tips I share each week will help you become a better literary citizen and a more effective writer in your personal or professional life. If you have questions, leave them in the chat. So go ahead and grab a pen and paper or have your phone or laptop handy, and let's go ahead and get started. Last week, we talked about the importance of getting clear on your deep why for writing your book, the first step in our foundational blueprint process. This week, we're looking at the next step in the blueprint process. What's your point? What have you come to say? What's the takeaway for the reader? In just a minute, we're going to have a conversation with Othelia Sierra, who's an entrepreneur and the founder of the Math Mentors. Now, first, I just want to talk a little more about step 2, getting clear on your point. So this is about what have you come to the page to say. Think about it like you're standing on a soapbox and there's something you want the world to know. If you're not really clear on what you want to say on your point, your book will be mushy and fuzzy, and it really won't serve anyone as well as it could. Now, there's a lot of different ways to ask this question. What's your point is one way. Another way to say it is, what's the takeaway you want your reader to have when she finishes the book? Think about your book, a nonfiction book in particular, as making an argument about something. Like for my memoir that I've been talking about in past episodes, my message, my point is it's worth listening to your inner voice. So I want to welcome and introduce Othelia Sierra. She's the founder of the Math Mentors, which is a scholarly tutoring company based in Lancaster, PA. And from an early age, Ophelia has enjoyed learning math, and she's grateful to have turned her passion into her purpose. Her favorite subjects to tutor are geometry and algebra, and students admire her clear explanations and her passionate approach to teaching. So welcome, Ophelia, and thanks for taking the time to spend a few minutes with us this afternoon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Suzette.
Yeah. I just have to say before we start talking about the book and the point and all that stuff that I wish I'd had you in my life. I don't know how many years ago, I'm going to age myself, but geometry was my, as we say, my bête noire. It was a big struggle for me. So we had a conversation a few days ago, and I got to hear a little bit about your ideas for writing books, and you have a lot of ideas, which is really fabulous, and a lot of people have a lot of ideas. And so let's talk about the idea you have for your math book. And before we really jump into the conversation, Othelia has not written a book before. And she's definitely thinking about writing one. So she's at the very early stages of just really coming up with the idea, and how that will all play out remains to be seen. So let's talk about what's your big idea. What's the point you want to make about math?
Sure. My big idea, and the idea that has been with me for a long time, is about changing people's perspective on mathematics. Especially here in the United States, we have a very negative view overall of what math is. And often people say, I hate math. And that's accepted by so many people as just like, yeah, sure, you're allowed to hate math. And I want people to realize that it is not some abstract thing that only certain people can understand, but it's a very logical subject that I consider to be sort of like a language, and that everyone has the ability to learn it, especially if they take it at their pace and have the correct foundations to it, to be able to understand why people like myself do love mathematics and why we're so passionate about it.
Okay, so the big I love you have a big vision. It's about, transforming what many people think about math, and I know that I have said to myself, I'm not a math person, right? I mean, people say that all the time. I'm not a math person, and having given birth to two sons who are math people, that's been one of my mantras. So you have a big vision about that everyone can learn math. And do you believe that everyone can learn to love math?
I hope that everyone can love math as much as me and get some of these cool, fun math scarves and rock them and be very proud about it. But it is more so just having people have a better attitude about mathematics, and reducing people's fear, changing people's perspectives, and reducing anxiety about mathematics.
Okay, so that was actually my next question. So your point is everyone can learn math, everyone's capable of it, and maybe almost everybody's capable of loving math if they can learn it in a certain way. And why you care about that is because, tell us why.
Sure.
Yeah.
I feel that, well, in my experience, it happened that in middle school, there was this shift where some people like myself continued to grow in math and find more challenging math to do. And then others started saying, I hate math. Oh, math is so lame or whatever. But the I hate math thing definitely came about. And I started experiencing that and noticing people's frustration back then, and continued to notice it through adulthood, where it became more apparent to me how many people dislike it and think that it is for a select few. And then now, as a private tutor, I see it as parents come to me, they're concerned about their student, or they want them to perform better, and they don't believe that they have it in themselves to be able to help their students. And it usually happens around middle school, where things go from just numbers to adding letters into the equation, and changing into algebra. And for me, letters are just costumes for numbers. So
oh, that's beautiful. I think you're going to be a great writer. You're using beautiful language already. I'm trying to not hyperventilate when you are talking about middle school and well, it was junior high back in my day, but and algebra and geometry, and fortunately my two sons were really good in math, so I didn't have to help them, because I don't think I would have been able to. So tell me a little more about how, and now I know, you don't exactly know how the book's going to play out. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a couple of minutes, but how do you see your book idea that will become a book someday? How do you see that maybe working in with your business or helping your business? Have you thought about that?
Sure. A lot of parents come to me because they aren't sure how to help their children. And this could potentially be a self-help type of book, where parents can learn that it's not all about these memorized algorithms, that there are these basic foundations to mathematics that everything else comes from, where they can learn these basics themselves and become a little bit more comfortable and maybe explore some of the trauma maybe that they've endured and felt because of teachers that maybe just weren't able to show them a good way to approach mathematics.
So what when we had our conversation the other day, and I'm hearing this again from you now, what I love is that you're very, very clear on your point, which is what we're talking about this week. And you're very clear on kind of your mission and your point. And so whatever form your book ends up taking, I feel really confident that it's going to be successful because you do have that clarity. A lot of people, when they have an idea about the topic or the subject they want to write about, but they haven't really narrowed it down to making a specific point or an argument. And as I said in the introduction, is that a book is really, you're making an argument about something in the world. And so you're making a very clear argument about math, which I think I will just, I know I said this to you earlier, I'm going to reiterate. I think that your book, whether you end up writing a book that's more geared to the actual students, like a workbook kind of thing, or if it's a book that's more geared to the parents, it's going to really make a difference for a lot of people because math, anxiety, there's real math anxiety, right?
Math anxiety. I studied about math anxiety while I was in college. I wrote a paper on some research that I found about it. And one of the big takeaways of some of the research I did about math anxiety is that often in early education, a teacher either has a poor attitude about a subject and it directly impacts the students' care about that subject.
Sure.
And it can come from either a preschool teacher or it could come from a parent. And if a parent is showing that frustration or like, let's hurry up and get this math done so we can move on to the next thing, or even a teacher can do that too, because it's not always the elementary school teacher's forte.
Sure.
That rubs off onto the student. And if we have a more logical approach to understanding math, and this is an elementary understanding, a foundational understanding of mathematics that I want to present to people that I learned in the last course that I took to complete my math degree. And I thought that I should have done that way before that. I wish I would have been given these 10 core foundational principles of mathematics, because it was such a clear thing to me that all of the theories and principles of math grow from those basic things.
Yeah.
And I think that if other people could understand that they wouldn't feel so frustrated.
Yeah. So to wrap things up, I see that you have a very clear vision. You have a very clear point that you want to make. You have this tutoring company, the Math Mentors, where you work with students one-on-one. And this is going to give you the opportunity to reach a lot more people, having a book and to reach a lot more people, to impact a lot more people, and hopefully maybe draw some more people to your one-on-one coaching or however you decide to grow your business. So I really want to thank you for coming on. I appreciate you taking the time. And I want to just plug Ophelia again for anyone who's struggling with math or has a child who's struggling with math. Go check her out at mathmentors.org, right? Sorry, I said it wrong. Say that again.
TheMathMentors.org.
TheMathMentors.org. Okay. Thank you so much, Othelia.
Thank you, Suzette.
So again, gosh, I appreciate having these aspiring authors and aspiring authors to come on and chat with us. So the key takeaways on this step 2 of our blueprint: get clear on your point. Think about your book as making an argument about a particular topic. What would you say if you were standing on a soapbox? What's the takeaway you want to leave your reader with? I want to remind you to sign up for my newsletter if you haven't already at yourstoryfinder.com, where I have tips that help writers get their work done. Next week, we'll be looking at step 3 in our blueprint process, which is developing your elevator pitch. Everyone will ask you what your book is about. Trust me, it will happen. So learn how to say that succinctly and without stammering. I look forward to seeing you then. And in the meantime, happy reading and writing. So You Want to Write a Book is part of the Candy Factory mini-series and is a proud member of the Candy Factory Collective. You can find the show streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And you can subscribe to the audio version anywhere you get your podcasts.
Over the past 8 years, Suzette has been on a mission to help writers clear the fog and cut through the overwhelm so they can move their ideas out of their head and onto the page.
Her later in life coming out journey and her professional experience as an author, accelerator, certified book coach, and Dare to Lead trained professional, as well as her time at Harvard Law School, Wellesley College, and Columbia Theological Seminary, have given her a unique perspective, as well as many of her own stories to tell.
When she's not writing or coaching other writers, Suzette can be found on her yoga mat,
advocating for the Lancaster LGBTQ+ coalition,
or hanging out with her partner, Wendy, and their rescue pup, Lucy.
Visit yourstoryfinder.com to learn more about Suzette and her life story, as well as her writing coach offerings.
Life's too short to stay stuck, so why not write that book?
So You Want to Write a Book is produced by the Candy Factory Collective at the Candy Factory Co-working Campus in Lancaster, PA.
Production support by Anna Tran. Administrative support by Ann Kirby, Ariana Henderson, Krisha Marcel, Jason Mundock, and Robert Diggs. Notes and links can be found on the show post at our website, candyfactorycollective.com. Candy Factory.
Collective.